Coming up, a new book I want to tell you about by Michael Bobelian, The Children of Armenia. It's about the Armenian Genocide, which we don't talk enough about. 728. This is KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk radio. Bill Handel here. You've heard me talk time and time again of the Holocaust, the Jews being massacred by the Nazis during World War II. What you have not heard a whole lot is about the Armenian massacres and their Holocaust from 1915 to give or take 1923, where millions of Armenians were displaced and also killed. There's a couple reasons for that. Number one, there's nobody left that's an ally. No Nazi is left that's an ally of the United States. Turkey is an ally of the United States, so they're going to suppress it a little bit. Also, I got to tell you, Jews have better PR than Armenians. It's not that complicated. Michael Bobelian, is that how I pronounce your name correctly, Michael?
Yes, that's right.
Has done a rather extensive study of the forgotten genocide, is fair to say. And I understand, Michael, that both your paternal grandparents and maternal grandparents, both your grandparents are survivors, but they lost their entire family in the massacre, the genocide of the Armenians.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so of all the people that can talk about it, I think you're right there at the top of the list in terms of credibility. So other than what I said about this, why else do we not make a big enough deal about it, where I've talked to Armenians and, the people of the United States, frankly, a lot of the world, just sort of sits back and goes, so what kind of thing?
Right, that's a really good question, and it's something I studied just to fill my own curiosity. And what I found was what makes it very ironic is that while the genocide was taking place during World War I, it was an event that was widely acknowledged and well known. There are hundreds of articles in American newspapers. Typical one I'm going to read to you from the New York Times from 1915 says, wholesale massacres of Armenians by Turks. And then you have 800,000 Armenians counted, destroyed, and whatnot. And the genocide inspired the first major international humanitarian aid movement. You had people like Woodrow Wilson, Chief Justice Charles Evans Hughes, the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan. So all these industrial, political, and cultural elites supported the Armenians, the survivors of the genocide, basically, and thousands of American relief workers administered refugee camps and orphanages. And for someone who is a very elderly American, they might still remember in the 1920s, if you were a child and you didn't finish the food on your plate, and the parents often said, remember the starving Armenians. So this was an event that really was very well known, but it kind of disappeared from the world's consciousness. So much so that by 1939, as Hitler was addressing his army on the eve of World War II, he told them to be ruthless and show no mercy. And for anyone who had doubts about the wisdom of his command, he told them, who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians?
That's a good point. So, and what's interesting about this, and obviously and for those people that don't know enough about the Armenian massacre, the genocide, their Holocaust, it's every bit as vicious as what happened to the Jews during World War II. I mean, this is not a small matter. And you know what I find interesting? Germany, after the war, came to the table. There's no question of deniability. They said, yes, we did it. We're ashamed of it. It was during the Third Reich. Turkey, for some crazy reason, refuses to come to the table, refuses to recognize it. And most of this, if not all of it, was done before Ataturk came into power, before the Turkish Republic was founded. And why can't they simply say, different time, different era, that's not who we are today?
That's right. You're absolutely right. Turkey, unlike Germany, has denied this past. And you're also right in that these events took place before the creation of the modern Turkish Republic. They took place during the Ottoman Empire. It's a complicated answer, unfortunately. Part of it has to do with material things like the fear of paying reparations. But part of it has to do with there's a certain creation myth that every culture writes about its nation, and Turkey's study of its own history excludes the Armenian genocide from its official history. So the average Turkish person is not taught this history, and it would be seen as a stain on the honor of the Turkish nation and the Turkish people. It'd be sort of like, as an American growing up, you learn about the founding fathers, and we also learn that they had their negative traits as well. Some of them were slave owners and things like that. But imagine if you learned that many of the founding fathers were murderers or rapists and things like that. It's sort of would come as a shock to the population. So those are some of the reasons, but it actually it's a very difficult problem for Turkey in confronting its past, and unfortunately that has led it to deny the Armenian Genocide and the Armenian experience.
And because Turkey is such a valued ally of the United States, because Armenia really doesn't exist, there's no issue politically about where America has to lie on this one.
That's right. Turkey has been a valuable ally since the end of World War II. It joined NATO in the 1950s. It was a key player during the Cold War, and it's still a key player. And whether you're talking about Iraq or trying to ease tensions in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or Iran, Turkey is an essential ally to the United States, and particularly the executive branch of the United States, the White House, the Defense Department, the State Department, have always sided with Turkey on this issue.
And, of course, that leaves it up to the existing Armenian community in America and throughout the world and people who understand this actually happened. You know, I have an interesting story I want to share with you, Michael, real quickly. Last year I was in Turkey, and we were on a cruise along the Bosphorus, just a group of us, and we're taking a beautiful cruise up there and having wine, etc. The tour guide who was with us, I started talking politics with him. We almost came to fisticuffs. We almost got into a fight. I kept on saying it happened. He kept saying, no, it didn't. And he goes, if anything, it was a civil war, and the Armenians were armed, and it just so happens that Turkey just won. And I go, the Armenians were armed? The babies? The old people? That's just a myth. That's not right. True at all. And I was just absolutely flabbergasted at the utter deniability of history and of fact. It's almost like the Holocaust deniers. What planet are you on? Except you're not dealing with crazies. You're dealing with an entire country.
That's right.
And also, I'm assuming Europe doesn't care, because Europe never cares about anybody.
That's right. I mean, part of it is, as you said, it's not the Holocaust deniers are marginalized, and rightfully so. But those who deny the genocide start from the Turkish government, the average Turk, and not because they're in on some conspiracy, but like I said, that's simply the history they've been taught. So they just don't know any differently. And it goes into Turkish academia, and the denial is much more than, as you said, just simply saying, no, it didn't happen. There are all these explanations to try to explain away this crime of genocide. It was civil war, there was malnutrition, it was World War I, many people died. It'd be like Germany saying, well, look, millions of Germans died during World War II. That is true. But that doesn't remove the crime of the Holocaust from history. So you're absolutely right in that regard. The Turkish denial is so absolute, and as I said, there's this huge apparatus to it. It's not just simply saying, no, it didn't happen.